So I want to begin this video with a shout out to Anna, also known as @loving Sylvia Plath on Instagram, who posts all kinds of interesting Plath things. If you're a fan, you should definitely go and give her a follow. Recently, she posted about an episode of The Simpsons that came out last year that made a pretty off-colour Sylvia Plath reference at one point, sort of beneath and not worthy of The Simpsons name. But what was interesting about the post was that Anna then went on to detail some of the correspondences between the plot of the episode, which involves Lisa going to Capital City, the sort of Simpsons stand-in for New York, and the plot of the bell jar. If you want to read more about those, as I say, head over to Anna's Instagram. But I actually wanted to talk about a sort of different connection between Sylvia Plath and The Simpsons, something that I've been thinking about recently, and it unfolds a recent news article about a Scottish actor called James Finlayson. He was the sort of third man to Laurel and Hardy, and he is credited with inspiring Homer Simpson's Doe.
Did you call me, Mr. Finn?
Go! No, get back into the kitchen where you belong. Go ahead now, don't bother.
And the reason he was in the news is there's been a new painting commissioned of him, which is being unveiled in a theatre in his hometown of Stirling. Now, the reason this struck me is that I've been wondering about the origins of Homer Simpson's voice, and I thought perhaps it was a completely different source. As it turns out, there is an interview with Dan Castellaneta where he credits James Finlayson and talks about the origins of Doe.
And I asked Matt what's an annoyed grunt, and he goes, whatever you want. And I had remembered from the Laurel and Hardy movies I watched on television as a kid, Jim Finlayson, who was the Scottish comedian who was a foil to Laurel and Hardy, and he would always go "Doe," which I've subsequently discovered or believed to be the reason he said that was he was trying to say "damn," but you couldn't say "damn" in those, so it was like he would say "no" because he couldn't say "damn," you know. So I did a sort of "doe" like that, and Matt said, we only got a minute, so you have to kind of make that faster. So we went "doe," and that's how Doe came about.
But I had been listening to an old radio show called The Great Gildersleeve, starring an actor called Harold Peary. He plays the main character, the title character, Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve. And as I've been listening to it, I've been thinking more and more, surely Dan Castellaneta listened to this, because there are lots of similarities between Peary's performance and Homer Simpson's. There's a very Homer Simpson type of chuckle.
Well, I assure you, officers, it's true. I did it all for my little nephew's character. We're building it, you know.
There's a sort of tick he has, which is close to a kind of "why you little."
That's about all you old-timers have got left. Your memory.
Yeah. What did you say?
He's got that lovely, buttery, dare I say, fat voice.
Present company accepted, of course.
Where have you been, buddy?
Hello, two of you. Well, I've been out delivering morning papers.
And he seems to just at times hover on the brink of almost saying "doe."
Oh, here we are.
Yes. What's this?
Your change, a 1-cent stamp and 3 sticks of chewing gum. Goodbye.
Oh!
What has any of this got to do with Sylvia Plath? Well, the reason I've been listening to The Great Gildersleeve is because it's one of the radio shows Plath listened to as a girl. When it was first transmitted in the 1940s, she was a big fan of The Great Gildersleeve. And if you look at her childhood diaries, she records listening to it for years. She was a long-term fan of this show. It wasn't the only radio show she was a fan of as well. She also listened to shows like The Jack Benny Show, Superman, and that kind of thing. The childhood diaries have not been published. They're only accessible in archive form. So if you want to read some of those entries about shows like The Great Gildersleeve, you'll have to read books like Carl Rollison's Sylvia Plath Day by Day. The first volume has a lot of Gildersleeve coverage, and Carl also includes links to where you can listen to episodes, which you can. The whole thing is available. You can listen to it on... it's all on Spotify, that's where I've been listening to it, but I assume it's probably on YouTube as well. It was a big deal, this show. They made movies from it, and the actor, I think he a bit like Fraser on Cheers. He started off on another show, and this sort of spun off into The Great Gildersleeve because his character was so popular. And while it might be James Finlayson and not Harold Peary that we have to thank for Homer Simpson's voice, there are connections to that world visible in The Simpsons. So, for example, Frank Nelson, who appeared on the Jack Benny Show, also listened to by Sylvia Plath, whose trademark was saying this.
Now, let's see. I wonder where the Or the jewelry department. Oh, mister.
which is the direct inspiration for that guy in The Simpsons.
Excuse me. Yes? Do you have a table for the mayor? Yes! Why do you talk that way? I had a stroke!